Hi there, everyone. I would like to share with you that today we're going to be finishing up our reading of chapter 12.3, Citizens of the World. And today I will be reading Explore Sections 7, 8, and 9. And our essential question is the same. Has global contact and migration created a more culturally united or divided world? So be sure to have your notes open, your part 3 notes open, and you can see that our sections for Explore Section 7, the heading is Controlling Emigration and Immigration. So you're going to see that we're going to be defining the definitions of emigration with an E and immigration with an I. And then Section 8 is about a connected world. And then Explore Section 9 is unity versus division. And then finally, we'll be able to do our summary because we're all done with reading the Explore sections for this chapter. And the summary, we're going to be answering that essential question: has global contact and migration created a more culturally united or divided world? So remember to always read the questions or what the notes, the left-hand side of the notes are asking you to know or define before you begin reading. So I'm going to begin reading and highlighting what's important, and you can follow along. Stop the video if you feel like you need to pause and take notes and go at your own pace. So Explore Section 7 is titled Controlling Emigration and Immigration. How do nations control inbound and outbound migration of people? A nation's population may increase or decrease. Either way, these changes are not always desired by government officials or citizens. There are many reasons why a nation might make laws to control emigration or immigration. Emigration is the migration out of a region. Immigration is the migration into a region. So I'm going to highlight this as being important, but then I'm going to highlight the definitions of emigration and immigration in a different color because those are the definitions of the words I need to define in my notes. The former Soviet Union had strict laws controlling the movement of people within its borders. The government had many rules to block emigration. Its main goal was to keep educated and skilled workers from leaving Soviet-controlled countries. The United States has a very different history. The United States has paid more attention to immigrants than emigrants. This is because so many people want to live in the United States. U.S. policies on immigration have developed over time. For example, in the early and mid 1800s, Chinese workers were welcomed to the United States because they took jobs no one else wanted. Then the economy weakened, which made it difficult for workers to find jobs. This caused some people to get mad at the Chinese and treat them badly. In 1882, the U.S. government passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. This law stopped Chinese immigration. Over the next 30 years, the government passed several more laws aimed at decreasing or stopping Chinese immigration. So it talks about the Soviet Union and then why the Soviet Union they block immigration, the Soviet Union government. In the United States, it's different. We paid more attention to immigration, so people coming to the United States, okay? So I'm going to highlight that. So our policies have changed. So for example, in the early 1800s, Chinese workers came to the United States to find jobs and took jobs no one else wanted. Okay, and then because they were treated badly, they were they developed the U.S. government developed an act, the Chinese Exclusion Act, which stopped Chinese immigration. Okay, this resulted in a decrease of Chinese immigration. In 1952, the United States passed the Immigration and Nationality Act. This act had two main goals. One goal is to control the number of immigrants allowed from particular countries. Another goal is to make rules for those looking to enter the country who might want to become citizens, excuse me. The law has been changed many times over the years. It now also describes the types of visas or official documents that people from different countries must have to come to the United States. For example, immigrants who want to work from the United States need work visas. Immigrants who wish to join relatives in the United States need family sponsored visas. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that. So, oops, sorry, those documents have changed. Okay. We have a couple examples there. Other countries also have tightened their immigration laws. In 2006, France passed a law limiting immigration for unskilled laborers. The law also limited those who might need special social services, such as the elderly or disabled. I think that's important. In 2012, the government of Japan established a points-based immigration system. In this system, highly skilled and trained workers seeking to move to Japan were likely to be accepted over others, so they could pick and choose. Okay, so you guys can see there's more information about the Chinese Exclusion Act. Okay, so I'm just going to go to section 8, but first I'm going to go to my notes, and I'm going to, I'm going to go to my notes, and I'm going to add the information that to answer define immigration. So immigration is the migration out of a region. You might want to highlight out because that's important. And then immigration, so if you can kind of think of in or IM is also similar to in. Immigration is the migration into a region. So maybe you want to highlight the word into. That would help me remember. How did the Soviet Union control inbound and outbound migration of people? The former Soviet Union had strict laws controlling the movement of people within its borders. The government had many rules to block emigration. Its main goal was to keep educated and skilled workers from leaving Soviet-controlled countries. How did the US policies on immigration change in the 1800s? For example, in the early and mid 1800s, Chinese workers were welcomed to the United States because they took jobs no one else wanted. Then the economy weakened, which made it difficult for all workers to find jobs. This caused some people to get mad at the Chinese and treat them badly. In 1882, the US government passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. This law stopped Chinese immigration. Over the next 30 years, the government passed several more laws aimed at decreasing or stopping Chinese immigration. What are the two goals of the 1952 Immigration and Neutrality Act? One goal is to control the number of immigrants allowed from particular countries. Another goal is to make rules for those looking to enter the country who might want to become citizens. How does France control inbound and outbound migration of people? In 2006, France passed a law limiting immigration for unskilled laborers. The law also limited those who might need special social services such as the elderly or disabled. How does Japan control inbound and outbound migration for people? In 2012, the government of Japan established a points-based immigration system. In this system, highly skilled and trained workers seeking to move to Japan were likely to be accepted over others. So you can see lots of different laws and policies are in place to that would monitor immigration and immigration. So next section is section 8, and we're going to go back to our text. So the next section is a connected world. How has increased human mobility contributed to a diverse global culture? So guys, remember as I'm highlighting, if you're highlighting too, you can copy and paste those answers into your notes at your own pace later. In the past century, it has become easier than ever for the human population to move. This is partly because advances in transportation have made travel and migration easier. Human movement or mobility also has increased because of the world's economic growth. This growth began in 1945 when World War II ended. Okay. In the United States and Western Europe, business grew quickly after the war. Employment was high. Japan's economy soared too. Okay. So I'm going to highlight this, but I'm also going to highlight the United States and Western Europe so you guys know where we're referring to. The rapid growth later spread to other East Asian countries. These included South Korea, Taiwan, and China. All right. The growing success has created new pull factors. There's that word that term that we studied before. These pull factors draw people from developing countries to different parts of the world where they hope to find better jobs. In 2000, about 175 million people lived outside their native countries. Wow, that's interesting. Okay. That's really interesting. It's a lot of people. In the last 40 years, the world's economies and societies have become more connected with one another. This pattern is called globalization. Okay, so that's the definition of globalization is when people from different world economies and societies are connected to each other. So for example, people, goods, services, and money all flow more easily throughout the world. That's globalization. Businesses in one nation can control factories and operations in another nation. They can even hire workers from all over the world. Governments are joining together in trade groups and political unions, such as the European Union. Okay, I'm going to highlight that. The European Union is a group of 27 European countries. They work together to provide free trade among all of their member nations. Ideas are also moving rapidly across borders, thanks to many developments in communication technologies that began as early as the 1800s. The first major breakthrough was the invention of the telegraph, which came into widespread use in the United States in the 1830s. The telegraph allowed operators to transmit information through a series of coded signals. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell's invention of the telephone allowed people to speak directly to each other across great distances. Both inventions were aided by the development of the transatlantic cable system, a system of undersea cables that made communication across the Atlantic Ocean possible. Okay, so that is how we can call people across the Atlantic. The late 1900s saw the arrival of many new developments in communication technology. The most significant was the internet, which was developed in the 1970s but wasn't widely used by the general public until the early 1990s. The internet acts like a worldwide superhighway for information, allowing people from all nations to hold conversations and to share news and opinions. Social networking sites have also allowed people to interact with each other in unique ways. Facebook, founded by Mark Zuckerberg in 2014, and Twitter, launched in 2007 by Evan Williams and Biz Stone, are two widely used websites for connecting people and sharing their words and photographs. Mass media, including television, film, and radio, further contribute to the exchange of cultures around the world. Again, remember our unit is global culture. So we're looking at different ways that people use ways to communicate and share ideas and cultures. I'm going to highlight social networking sites. You guys, I'm sure will remember Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram, right? All right, so guys, as we go back to, I'm going to go ahead and move to, I want to show you guys all these really cool additional resources, how social networking started. all of these great resources that you can look at if you want for more information. So I'm going to move on to 9, section 9, before I go to my notes. So in section 8, I want you to be thinking about answers that you can include in your notes. Do not type in answers will vary. That is in our key. But when we check your answers, you should have information about how has increased human mobility contributed to a diverse global culture. So you need 6 key facts from the reading. So anything that we highlighted is what you should be copying and pasting here. And then again, how has migration made the world more united? Okay, Explore section 9 is about unity versus division. So Explore section 8 is really short in terms of the notes, but you can highlight any of or copy and paste anything that was highlighted in the text that we read. Okay, Explore section 9 is about unity and division. How has migration made the world more united? So let's go ahead and read section 9. Unity versus division. Has migration made the world more united or divided? Greater unity. Migration and international sharing of cultures and ideas certainly have contributed to a more united world. These days, business people living anywhere on earth can communicate. English is the generally accepted language of business. So we know English is a global language. We buy bananas, coconuts, and other foods at local markets after they've been shipped from halfway around the world. In most major cities of the world, anyone can find the foods of different nations. Okay, think about our McDonald's cultural diffusion activity. It is common to find a Chinese restaurant, an Italian pizzeria, an Irish pub, or a McDonald's. These examples remind us just how globalized the planet has become. There are other important signs of growing unity in the world. The spread of democratic principles and other shared values is an example. Since World War II, unelected leaders and other strict rulers have become far less common. Today, most countries operate as democracies. So I want to highlight this in yellow, but I want to highlight this in pink because this is really important that today most countries operate as democracies. They hold elections and choose government leaders. They allow citizens to form different political parties. I'm going to highlight that in yellow. There is also general agreement that people everywhere have certain basic human rights. This includes the right to live in peace and security. It also includes the right to think and express oneself freely and the right to receive equal treatment under the law. So those are basic human rights. It is no longer easy for a country to abuse its citizens' rights. International organizations such as the United Nations and North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or you may hear it called NATO, often work hard to deal with such situations. Groups and people all over the world set up to help when natural disasters strike. They also work together to solve global problems such as hunger, poverty, and disease. Increasing divisions. Globalization sometimes pushes people apart. Not everyone appreciates the influence of other cultures and customs. In Iran, for example, I'm going to highlight this in yellow. In Iran, for example, the people overthrew their ruling monarch in 1979 partly because they believed he was too westernized. They thought he was influenced too much by the United States. So I'm going to highlight in that pink as an example. But Iranians, that's what westernized means, is that these countries were too influenced by the United States and the way of life here. Iranians established a more traditional Islamic government. This government is controlled by religious leaders who view Westerners as too proud and immoral or wicked. Since 1979, relations between Iran and the United States have been difficult. More recently, groups in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, and other Muslim countries also have clashed with Western countries. I'm going to highlight that. The two sides have cultural and political differences. Many people on both sides have unfair beliefs about the other group. This often causes distrust and sometimes violence. So this is an example of where we see divisions or a divided world. Migration across international borders has also led to more division in the world. In the United States, some people don't like the growing influence of Hispanics. This influence resulted from many years of immigration. Some immigration was legal, some illegal. Sorry, guys, that was my alarm. I'm going to highlight that. In states such as Alabama and Arizona, local governments have written laws designed to push out Hispanic immigrants living there illegally. In France, North African immigration has been common. Immigration has been common since the 1960s. However, a rising anti-immigration movement has been growing for years. The major anti-immigration party in France, the National Front, received more than 17% of the vote in the 2012 presidential election. Okay, so here's an example. I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to highlight it in pink so that you can see that that's an example. And then, so again, down at the bottom, there's some more links to information about what we read in Explore Section 9 about unity versus division. Okay, so let's go back to our notes. And again, here we have answers will vary because we want you to be able to take the information from the text that we read and answer the question, how has migration made the world more united? So your answer here should be what we highlighted. So you should have answers that include examples from how the world has become more united, right? So we have groups like NATO and the United Nations where countries come together to help each other. And then you should also here answer the question, how has migration created more division in the world? And you should have something in your answer about how countries in the East, okay, especially the Middle East, like Iran, Afghanistan, they dislike a lot of the customs and cultural beliefs of the Western world or that are influenced by the United States. So your answers, your notes here should have some of those answers from the text. And then let's take a look at the summary. Again, your summary should be based on what you think. Has global contact and migration created a more culturally united or divided world? And that's in your opinion. So I want you to think about what would be your opinion. Do you think that we have become more culturally united globally with other countries because of migration? Or do you think that we have become more divided because cultures have shared their ideas and their beliefs? So that's where you're going to write your answer there. Okay, guys, so in class, we will talk more about the sections 7 through 9. Be sure to have your notes completed, and we will see you in class. Thank you.